you need someone to fight, take a spot in the tussle. Injury assistance law firm got the muscle. Whoa, whoa.
Welcome back to the show. I've often been frustrated at times, and Michaela can tell you this, it's not a lie, that, all right, you have a nice sidewalk, right? Why are we jogging down the street in the middle of the road? I don't know. You'd think you'd be on the sidewalk, but I'm not judging. I'm not. But it has been frustrating to me.
Sounds
a little bit judgmental, but you always hear the pedestrian always has the right of way. What about bicyclists, and can bicyclists be on the sidewalk? Should they be in the road? And as drivers of cars, what do we need to watch out for? I mean, obviously we don't want to hit them, but what happens when something like that does indeed happen? Michael Mills is not only one of our favorite attorneys in town, also an avid cyclist. Mike, how are you, buddy?
Doing great. How are you?
Great, but I don't know who has the right of way. I literally don't. And can I ride my bike on the sidewalk? Do I have to be in the middle of the road? I don't know.
So it sounds to me like you're one of those drivers that
I'm not aggressive.
Comes up behind me and honks the horn really hard.
You're looking at the wrong
I go like a
me, makes
mile
me
to the
want
left.
to go over into the ditch or something and die.
Not me.
Okay, I'm just checking. Just checking.
I mean, look, if
You might be lying.
Here's the only thing with cyclists. It seems like it's always not just you, it's you and 30 of your closest friends.
Well, yeah.
Leaving Starbucks
There's
on Saturday
safety in
morning.
numbers.
And so I am behind you. I'm not honking, but I am thinking like, oh.
Okay. So this is it. We're on road bikes.
Right.
Road being the key word there, so we need to be in the road. We're typically going anywhere from 18 to 25 plus miles an hour. That's hard to do on the sidewalk.
Right.
First, it's unsafe because sidewalks have a lot of dips and they also have pedestrians. You don't want to be riding 25 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour with pedestrians, kids, dogs, and everything else. That's one of the reasons that you might see a trail next to the road, but we're still in the road because we're typically going at a higher speed. Now, while we're in the road, we should be obeying all of the traffic rules that apply to vehicles that are also driving in the road. That means that we should stop at the stoplights and stop signs, and making sure that we abide by all of the traffic laws.
Do you find that most bicyclists will stop at the stop signs? I don't think so. I mean, it's okay.
If I'm being honest,
yeah, of course.
Although we should, a lot of times we don't, especially if there's no cars coming, because it takes so much, especially if it's a group of us, it takes a lot for us to get back going again.
Right.
So typically the people in the front should stop, slow down, make sure there's no oncoming cars or vehicles. If there are cars approaching the stop signs, then we usually will come to a stop because we don't know whether or not they're going to blow through the stop sign or if they're going to stop and give us the chance to go ahead and proceed.
I mean, I can see stopping as a group at a red light, but the stop sign would be tough for every single person to stop, and you'd never reconnect, I guess, at that point either.
It's, as we go, it's kind of like a train. If you think about a train, it takes a lot for us to come to a dead stop, especially if it's a big group of us, and then getting going again, it also takes a lot. So at a red light, we definitely come to a stop, or should. And then yellow lights, we may proceed through because with 30 plus riders behind us, it's safer for us to just keep going through a yellow light than to come to a stop because, and with another thing with cyclists, things that vehicles don't have to think about, like potholes or debris or maybe some glass or a palm tree or a branch or whatever. Those are things that could spell disaster for us.
For sure.
So we have to definitely look out for that. And if you may see a bike lane, and we're still in the actual car lane, that's typically because there's either debris, because when there's bike lanes, everything gets pushed over into the bike lane. So if there's broken glass, or if there's tree limbs, or whatever the case is, just from the cars driving in the road, it gets pushed over into the bike lane. And so for us to avoid that, we are allowed to come over into the lane of travel for the vehicles so that we can be safe.
Now, you see a lot of, we just came out of Bike Week, right? Not that kind of bike, but like Harley Davidson Bike Week. And you see a lot of personal injury attorneys setting up a tent there at Bike Week, acting like, oh, I'm a big motorcycle guy, when in reality they're not.
Right.
They're doing it for marketing, and that's fine. Do whatever you got to do. You are actually a cyclist. I mean, you have a real inside view of what goes on with actual cyclists, and you've seen many cyclists who have been injured, and you've helped them through that.
Absolutely.
How dangerous are the streets of Central Florida when it comes to cycling or pedestrians?
They're pretty dangerous. It's getting better. What's important to note is just kind of educating the public that we do have a right to be in the road, because a lot of the motorists assume that because we're on the bike, we shouldn't be on the road. We get the birds flicked at us. Get on the sidewalk. What are you doing? Get out of the road. And like I said, we're going like 20, 25 plus miles an hour.
Right.
That's not safe. It feels really fast to us, but like the other day I was driving in my car and just trying to stay at 20, 25 miles an hour. I'm like, man, this is like really slow in a car.
Yeah.
But when you're on a bike, it's pretty fast.
Moving.
Yeah.
That's
So,
flying.
The wind, all of it.
The wind, yes, it's very exhilarating. But like I was saying, we have the right to be in the road, and actually, under Florida statute, motorists are supposed to give us at least 3 feet of space. You might see some cyclists with jerseys that say 3 feet. That means we have to be given 3 feet of space. That means if we're in the lane, you need to get over into probably the inner lane to go around us. And we do certain things so that we can either occupy the full lane, so that it makes it safer for us and safer for the drivers, because if we don't, a lot of drivers might just try to just barely skirt by. One, that's startling to us. Two, it could be pretty detrimental if they misjudge the distance, either clip us or whatever. That's how a lot of these accidents happen. And for us, an accident on a bike versus a car, we lose every single time.
Yeah, very, very quickly. And by all means, if you've been injured in a bicycle accident, you're a pedestrian, you've been hit by a car, or any sort of motor vehicle accident whatsoever, Michael Mills is here to help right now. 321-282-1055. And, you know, Mike, just when we figure out, okay, we have a statute, we're going to keep cars 3 feet from bikes, we decided we want to create the electric bike. And so for a real bicyclist perspective, you're there pedaling. Now people are staring at me right now, wondering what I'm going to say. I can already feel them staring at me. Now the dude doesn't have to pedal. Let's be honest here. He's on a bicycle. He doesn't have to pedal it. What do we think of these guys?
As a cyclist, I have a certain, just a little bit of disdain as he goes cruising by up a hill, barely sweating. But, you know, it allows them to be able to, and a man, woman, older person, younger person, you know, whatever, it allows them to be able to enjoy cycling when they're at a fitness level that might not otherwise enable them to do so. So, you know, to each their own.
That was very politically correct of you.
That was really well said.
That's what I do.
But it's probably true. You're right. I mean, but if you see a guy who's 25, looks like he could play linebacker for the Patriots on one of those, you're like, come on, dude.
Yeah, I don't typically see that. So it's usually it's usually folks that are either one, just getting into cycling, or two, just trying to get, because it's kind of electrical assist. So they still have to pedal. They still put in some work. It allows them to go to longer distances and get that exercise in. And still be out there on the road.
Go ahead, please. One
other thing while we're talking about this, I always recommend that any cyclist, especially if they own a vehicle, it's super, super important that they have uninsured motorist coverage on their policy. That is so key because that policy, uninsured motorist coverage on your auto insurance policy, still covers you should you be out there on the road riding and you are hit by a car.
That's unbelievable, and I don't think I even knew that. So I imagine a lot of times if someone hits a cyclist, they might not even stop, or especially if it's nighttime, they're going to take off. And what do you do at that point? You can't do anything. But you're telling me if you have a UM policy on your policy for your car at home,
correct,
you can be covered. That can be huge. How does that work? How does that step in and help you?
So, in two ways. Actually, the same way it works with the vehicle. If you're riding on your bike and you are hit by a vehicle, and their coverage is either not enough, maybe they only have $10,000, the bare minimum in bodily injury coverage, or they may not have any coverage at all. If they only had the bare minimum of $10,000 in coverage, and we're able to obtain that amount for your injuries, then your uninsured motorist coverage steps into their shoes with whatever amount of coverage you have. If they don't have any coverage, then your uninsured motorist coverage steps in right away, and then we can place a claim against your uninsured motorist coverage for whatever your injuries are.
That could be huge. What about pedestrians?
Absolutely.
Does it ever step in and help them?
Same thing goes for pedestrians, runners, anything that's vehicle related. Your uninsured motorist coverage can step into the shoes if you are injured when you're in a vehicle or when you're by a vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's unbelievable advice for someone out there who owns a car whatsoever, and you're talking to your insurance agent. You've got to check that box for UM coverage, whether it's you're driving a car, you're running down the street, you're riding your bicycle. I mean, that is huge.
And a lot of agents don't educate the public about their options and how they can better cover themselves in these types of situations.
I feel like I could do 2 hours with you today on this. The time just flew by. Michael Mills, is always a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And if you've been injured at all, any sort of accident whatsoever, literally he's our go-to guy when it comes to personal injury. The best of the best. You talk about service. It's very important when you've been injured. This is a life-changing moment. You need a lawyer who you can talk to, a lawyer who you can trust. Michael Mills is your guy. 321-282-1055. Behind the Law continues.
If you need someone to fight, take a spot in the tussle. Injury assistance law firm got the muscle.